What would happen if the A350 and the 777X, two icons of the modern sky, received new variants that are larger, fly farther, and perform more powerfully than ever before? For most people, that might sound impossible. But Emirates, one of the giants of the aviation world, has just expressed that very desire. And you know what's even more surprising? One manufacturer decided to answer that demand. If it becomes reality, the race to push technological limits and to surpass every existing standard could reignite, forcing the entire wide-body aircraft industry to rewrite the rules. So, who will take this bold move and why? Let's find out. Emirates is the world's largest operator of the Airbus A380 with a massive fleet that has become the backbone of its global connectivity model centered around Dubai International Airport DXB in its standard configuration, accommodating 484 passengers. The A380 delivers a level of passenger carrying efficiency per flight unmatched by any aircraft in service today, particularly on ultra-high-density routes. However, with the end of the A380 South production, Emirates now faces a significant capacity gap. Sir Tim Clark has emphasized the urgent need for a wide-body aircraft capable of carrying even more passengers to fill this void. The core issue is not only about sustaining revenue growth, but also closely tied to slot limitations at major global hubs such as London Heathrow, LHR, and DXB itself. At these airports, obtaining additional takeoff and landing slots is nearly impossible. As a result, the only viable way to expand capacity is to carry more passengers on each existing flight. Therefore, the Gulf carrier has been investing heavily in refurbishment programs to extend the lifespan of its A380 fleet, planning to operate the aircraft at least until 2041. This strategy reflects the airline's steadfast belief in the continued need for high-capacity, long-haul travel. Yet Clark also acknowledges the major challenges of maintaining an aging fleet, particularly in engine support and spare parts availability. He was quoted by Aerotelegraph as saying, "The supply chain has to work. Rolls-Royce and Engine Alliance must continue cooperating to ensure the A380 keeps flying. It will be difficult, but our plan is to keep the A380 in service." This dependency further reinforces the argument that a new, more modern successor is ultimately inevitable in the long term. One of the leading aircraft that Clark has called for the development of a new variant is the A35. Tim Clark's call to Airbus is a strategic move aimed at triggering innovation from the European manufacturer in the segment they once pioneered. Clark's objective is clear: to create a stretched version of the A350 family to inherit the legacy of the A380. Although Airbus currently offers the A35111 as its largest twin-engine jet, according to Clark, this aircraft is still too small to be a worthy successor. Specifically, the difference in capacity between the A380 and the A35100 is the core factor in Emirates' argument. The A35150 passengers in the common 50 passengers in the common 3-class configuration, while Emirates' A380 is configured for 484 seats or even more in some variants. This gap of 134 seats is a serious operational economic challenge for Emirates. For instance, on ultra-IJH density routes such as Dubai, London Heathrow, or Dubai Sydney, where flight frequency is strictly limited due to slot restrictions, every additional seat per flight directly translates into revenue and profit. A gap of 134 seats means that to compensate for the capacity of a single A380, Emirates would need to operate nearly half an additional A351UF flight, something impossible in a slot-saturated environment. This is the fundamental reason behind Clark's emphasis that the airline needs an aircraft capable of carrying more passengers without increasing flight frequency. Therefore, maximizing slot utilization is the top priority, and only an aircraft with a greater capacity than the current variant 1000 can achieve that. Clark's intentions are clear enough that with the blunt statement, "We need something bigger," he has laid out a list of significant technical improvements for Airbus that go beyond simply stretching the fuselage. He believes the maker should pursue a longer version of the A350, often referred to as the A35-02000 or a 350 stretch, with architectural changes across three main areas. First, an enhanced wing is a prerequisite. A longer aircraft will be significantly heavier and have a higher maximum takeoff weight, MTO, to maintain flight performance and takeoff capability. The current wing of the version 1000 may not be sufficient. A new wing would require a larger wingspan or an optimized aerodynamic design to support the increased load while maintaining the outstanding fuel efficiency characteristics of the A350 family. This could involve structural reinforcement, increased wing strength, and possibly refined high-lift devices to handle greater loads at low speeds. Next, the use of lighter composite structures is crucial. This aircraft is already known for its high composite material ratio, over 50% of its structure. But a stretched variant must further maximize empty weight reduction. By leveraging even more advanced carbon fiber and composite materials in the fuselage and wings, Airbus can ensure that the increase in size does not lead to a significant deterioration in fuel efficiency, thereby maintaining its advantage in cost per available seat mile compared to the A380. The goal is to carry more passengers without significantly increasing fuel costs. Finally, the requirement for modern engines is indispensable to power a larger and heavier airframe. The current Rolls-Royce Trent XWB-97 engines may not provide sufficient thrust without significantly compromising performance or increasing maintenance costs. Clark is indirectly urging engine partners like Rolls-Royce to develop an Ultra Trent version or a next-generation engine with thrust levels approaching or exceeding 100,000 pounds to compete with the GE9X engines on Boeing's Trip 7X. This cooperation is critical, as without a new engine, the stretched aircraft would not be able to achieve the desired range and fuel efficiency. These detailed technical requirements have sparked major internal discussions within Airbus. In fact, Tim Clark's latest statements reflect Emirates' long-standing view that a new generation of high-capacity jets is essential to meet future passenger demand. However, what's truly noteworthy is Airbus's response to this call. The European maker's CEO Guillaume Fry has hinted at a potential natural evolution of the A350 family, implying that a stretched version is a technically and commercially reasonable possibility in the future. However, he also emphasized that the development of a longer variant, commonly referred to as the A350-000 or a 350 stretch, is unlikely to happen before the 2030s. The reason for this hesitation lies in Airbus's current program priorities and the enormous financial barriers to aircraft development. Developing a stretch variant could require R&D costs amounting to several $billion. The maker is currently channeling its technical and financial resources into projects deemed more urgent for a broader and more stable global market, the A350F freighter, to compete in the booming cargo market and the expansion of the narrow-body line with the aimed at capturing the larger regional jet market to secure steady revenue. Moreover, developing an A350 stretch, though promising, risks being seen as a niche program serving primarily Emirates' exclusive demand. The manufacturer must carefully consider whether this carrier is willing to commit to a large enough order to offset the R&D costs. It may not be until the 2030s, when the current program stabilizes, that the maker can consider making the new variant its next major development focus. A longer A350 variant would allow Airbus to compete more directly and aggressively with its biggest rival Boeing and the Trip 7X in both range and capacity, reshaping the battle in the high-performance widebody segment instead of being forced to cede the superlarge twin-jet category to Boeing. But in the end, can the Airbus's new variant truly stand against the Trip 7X, a jet that is already superior even without a new variant? It's hard to conclude now, but still, even for Boeing, developing a new variant comes with its own set of challenges, similar to the A350. Although Boeing's largest twin-engine jet, currently under development, the Trip 77-9, offers around 346 seats in a typical three-class configuration, it still falls far short of the A380's 484-seat capacity, leaving Emirates with a gap of roughly 140 passengers. Just as with Airbus, President Tim Clark emphasized that to maintain performance and profitability on high-density routes such as Dubai-London and Dubai-Sydney, the U.S. aerospace giant must provide a higher capacity wide-body solution. one that allows Emirates to grow its passenger volume without increasing flight frequency. A crucial economic strategy in today's slot-saturated airport environment, this call has elevated the competition between the A350 and the 777X to a whole new level. If Boeing responds with a stretched variant, possibly a 777-10, it could surpass any stretched A350 model its rival might introduce, thereby reinforcing its position as the maker of the largest twin-engine airliner ever built. However, this possibility also presents the U.S. maker with a serious dilemma. On one hand, the company must weigh the pursuit of potential orders for this ultra-large version. On the other, it faces dual challenges in finance and program development. The current 7X program has already suffered significant delays due to complex issues related to certification and engine testing, forcing the company to concentrate its engineering and financial resources on bringing the baseline -9 to market.